Well, hello everybody. Kyle Neddenriep here from the Indy Star. Thoughts from the car, press box edition here at Ben Davis. Late Friday night, wrapping up here, about to take off. But Ben Davis, the defending state champs in Class 6A, ranked number one in the state, won't be ranked number one much longer because Cathedral came in here tonight and won 24-6 in a game that I don't wasn't fully expecting that type of a game. The first games, sometimes it is a little rough, a little rugged, and not always the teams that we'll see in a few weeks or certainly by the end of the season. I think that's probably the case for Ben Davis tonight. Talking to Russ Mann after the game, and he said he kind of didn't have a great feeling about this game going into it. And I asked him if it's based more on his team or Bill Peebles' team from Cathedral, and he said just kind of a feeling he had about his team. So obviously some things that, with a new team, some guys in some different places, and some things they're going to have to work out as they get into the next few weeks of the season. Certainly all is not lost. I thought Cathedral just played really well. This game went to their liking. I thought it had to go where they ran the ball significantly well, and they did that with Jalen Bonds, ended up with 148 yards. Their other two running backs as well, Pappas and Dangerfield. I tell you what, you respect Dangerfield after that. He had a nice game tonight, and I thought Pappas did as well. They had a three-headed monster there, running back, and certainly Bonds is the main guy, and he kind of bounced off tackles. He showed a burst, and he's been out a lot. He hadn't practiced a ton, so getting him in the mix obviously means a big deal for that team. I thought Cameron Kors played really well at quarterback. I don't have full stats right now on all this as I'm talking about it, but he made some throws where he had to make them. I thought the pass he had to Devon Slaughter late in there's about 4-something left in the second quarter. Ben Davis was down 3-0. Ben Davis went down, missed a field goal. 40-yard field goal wasn't really even that close. So then Cathedral had the ball at their own 20, up 3-0. And sort of at that point you felt like, it was anybody's game. I thought Ben Davis showed some things early, that looked like it was going to be kind of easy for them at times in the passing game. But just couldn't capitalize, couldn't finish drives. And then Cathedral's defense did a nice job of just getting off the field. But anyway, so they're going down the field. Cathedral had the ball inside the 10. Bonds ran it to the 9, I think it was, but there's a holding call. Pushed Cathedral back to the 26. On the very next play, Cameron Kors goes to the end zone for Slaughter for a touchdown, and 26 yards, and that was kind of felt like, okay, man, Cathedral's not settling for field goals here. That was a big play. Put that score at 10-0, and then Ben Davis goes back down the field, and probably the play of the game, certainly was definitely the play of the game. Ben Davis is going down. Looks like they're about to score. He gets to the 2-yard line. Had a shotgun snap go under the feet of quarterback Rogers, and Kyle Harden sort of dives for it. His teammate, I had his name here. His teammate did a nice job of sort of making it impossible for Rogers to get to the ball. Owen Reyes, it was the defensive back, number 23. As they were all three of them kind of going for the ball, and it pops out underneath Rogers. Harden picks it up, and I had him at 8. It's about 86, 87 yard return up the right sideline, and he was just all by himself for most of that run. Just took it to the house, 86 yards, and then all of a sudden it's about to be 10-7. And Bill Peebles said that after the game. He said, I felt like we're about to go in. It's almost like you feel like it's a 0-0 game. Instead, it's all Cathedral. It's 17-0, and that's a big deficit. I've seen some crazy games at Ben Davis over the years. I never count anybody out on this field in this stadium. It just always feels like something strange is about to happen, or no lead is safe. I've covered so many games here that have just been wild like that. And you kind of felt that a little bit. Start of the second half, though, Cathedral wasn't even trying to do an onside kick. It hits the up guy on the line there for Ben Davis, bounces right back. Cathedral gets the ball back, and then they go down and score again. Just Bonds chewing up yardage right and left at that point, and they take it in and score again. Bonds, I think from his 17-yard touchdown run, I believe it was, put them up 24-0 at that point, and then it really felt like even though it was early in the third quarter, Ben Davis' offense, an interception on the next possession. Cathedral did leave the door open slightly. Mark Zachary had a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown, but that was what, eight minutes left, 8:39 left in the game at that point. Ben Davis then had to call a timeout and didn't get the 2-pointer, so then it's 24-6 with 8:39 left. And Cathedral on the next drive, they were able to grind out about 5 minutes, so they give the ball back to Ben Davis with 2:53 left, and at that point, Ben Davis just wasn't in any real hurry, it seemed like, at that point either, and the game ended with a sack. Ben Davis was inside the 20, I believe, or close to it, but that was that. I mean, it felt like Cathedral was in command, certainly after that interception, or that fumble return for a touchdown by Harden to go up 17-0, and at that point, it felt like they were sort of playing with, they had the way they could run the ball, essentially, that it was going to be really hard for Ben Davis to come back. Ben Davis needed that big play, that big spark, that big offensive play, and I think they, just weren't able to do that. Weren't able to get that at any point in the game, really, at any time. So, there's Mark Zachary made some big, nice plays defensively. Certainly made that big interception return for a touchdown. Had some nice catches. He just makes it look so easy out there. It looks like he's, not even trying at times. And he's just got such a long reach as a receiver too. So nothing against what he did. I asked Russ Mann about Isaiah Rodgers and his performance tonight. Again, I don't have full stats yet at this point, but he played pretty well, I thought. I mean, he stood in the pocket. He made some nice throws. I'd love to see Elijah Price, run the ball a little bit more if I'm Ben Davis. And at times when he did that, they were able to move the ball up and down the field. Just couldn't, like I said, couldn't finish anything as far as those drives go from Ben Davis. But, man, Cathedral and Cameron Kors, I'll say I talked to him a lot more on all this stuff later at IndyStar.com in the written version. But, I thought he really performed well. It wasn't like he went out and had 400 passing yards, but he did his job. He made a nice throw to Slaughter on a fourth down to keep the clock moving, keep the drive going. Of course, had that touchdown pass over in the corner. I was kind of right in the end zone there, and that was a perfect throw. And Slaughter got just enough separation on that to get some space and get into the end zone. Just a really efficient performance, I would say, by Cameron Kors, and he's fast. He can run. He's definitely got some ability at that position for Cathedral that he can do some things. So all is not lost, even though Danny O'Neill's quarterbacking San Diego State now. I think at this point, Ben Davis it's not like you have to go back to the drawing board. I wouldn't say that, but definitely some things they'll have to reassess as they get into week 2, and it's a first game. You learn from it. You should learn from it. They're defending champs, so obviously it kind of hits you a little bit different when you get beat like that, I think. They were 13-1 last year and didn't lose to any in-state team, so no one's really expecting that sort of game from them. And I think, it'll be – they have Avon next week at Avon, then at Pike, and then they have a big Center Grove game back here at Ben Davis. So, we'll see what happens there. That'll be a tough one, obviously, as well, and then Warren Central. So a lot to play for, obviously, still later in the season. But, yeah, I think that'll be one you can learn from. Very good game by Cathedral, though. Again, hats off to them. They were ready to play. Obviously geared up. Lost the regional last year, 27-24. So they were geared up and ready for this one. Some other games tonight. Bishop Chatard beat Brebeuf Jesuit 58-35. Wild one there. I think we knew going in Brebeuf was going to have a team that could really score a lot of points. Could they stop people? That would be the key. And obviously tonight they had trouble doing that. against Chittard, which got out to a. I was kind of following Brian Hinchin's tweets and whatnot. They got out to the lead. It was 23-14 at halftime, and then they put up another 21 in the third quarter. So 58 points. That's a game we could see down the road. Of course, both those teams are in the same sectional together in Class 4A. The big one tonight down at in Center Grove. Westfield beat Center Grove 34-28 tonight. So obviously a huge win for Westfield tonight. They were down in that game, had to come back, and it was a game that I picked Westfield to win in our predictions for whatever that's worth, which is nothing, but felt like that was going to be a really good game, and it certainly was. And I know from looking at the stats, that Gabe McWilliams had 328 yards for Center Grove passing. Brevin Holobar had 116 receiving yards. Nolan Reese, 108 rushing yards for Center Grove. Carson Melvin, 178, and Gabe Ehrenbolz had 138 receiving. So a lot of what Melvin did, Gabe was able to. He had a big touchdown catch, I know, and then looked like Westfield didn't have a ton of rushing totals. It's hard to, not exactly sure on that. I think they had over 100 yards rushing, but a huge win. Obviously, the stats are sort of irrelevant, I guess, when you're talking about the win. That's just a big win for Westfield going into a big game against Carmel next week. So all kind of setting up for that to be a huge game going into week 2. Lawrence North beat Lawrence Central tonight 33-26. That was a game I know too that Lawrence North was ahead throughout in that one. I think it was 26-14 at halftime. But that game's always close, it seems like. LC was able to get a couple of late touchdowns, and I think LC is going to be a good team this year too. But Lawrence North, a ton of speed, ability on the edges, and I know Davion Chandler had a touchdown reception, and also Monsoon Sales had a touchdown as well. Bama Sales, they call him, had a 31-yard touchdown reception in that one. So big win for LN. I think they're a team I feel like I'm really high on them this year, and had ranked them pretty high in the preseason as well. Just a lot of speed, a lot of talent on that team. Lawrence North will play. They don't play. They could really be 5-0. I don't know how good Wayne is out of Ohio, but other than that, they play Fort Wayne, Northside, North Central, and Tech before they come here to Ben Davis in week 6. That's way down the road. Who knows what happens by that point? But that's could be a fun situation for LN this year. Good win for them. Again, LN 33-26 beats LC. Kokomo played New Pal tonight at New Pal. New Pal got out to a big lead at halftime. Kokomo hung in there, but it was 35-14. Ended up being New Pal beats Kokomo tonight. And Jacob Davis had 209 passing yards and 3 touchdowns for New Pal in that one. So good win tonight. New Pal ranked number 1, of course, in Class 4A. Western Boone beat Sheridan, and hopefully Bud Wright also, best wishes to him as he went through his surgery today for his broken arm and shoulder situation. He was hurt in a fall in the scrimmage last week against Crawfordsville. He was basically tackled by a lineman. So but I talked to him last night. He seemed to be in good spirits and everything, and I'm sure he'll be back next week, even though he's probably not supposed to be. But 35-14. Western Boone beat Sheridan tonight. I think both those teams have a chance to be pretty good this year. Seymour beat Greenwood 23-20, so they avenged last year's loss. Much more low-scoring game this year than it was. I think that was 51-49 last year. Franklin beat New Albany 47-6. They rolled. Roncalli beat Southport 37-13. Jaden Buchanan had a big game for Roncalli in that one, 288 passing yards, and Roncalli jumped out to a 31-0 lead by halftime of that one, so they were pretty much in command throughout. Cardinal Ritter beat Tech 36-0. Santana Allen had a big game for Ritter in that one, and you can find all this stuff IndyStar.com, all these scores. Batesville beat Triton Central. That was an interesting game tonight, I thought, 21-14. Batesville over Triton Central. I was looking for a Warren Central. Warren Central beat Snyder 15-0. I believe that's a final score. But yeah, so obviously the defense held up its end of the bargain. I thought Warren might score a little bit more than that, but nonetheless, they go on the road and get a good win. I was curious how that game would go. Warren, a team I think people are high on this year, especially that defense. So they get to pitch the shutout tonight up at Fort Wayne Snyder. They were the 5A champs last year and beat Warren actually in game 1 of last season. So good win. How about Pike? They get a good win tonight, 31-20 over Zionsville. So that's always a game that seems to be close, and a good win for Mike Brevard and the Red Devils in that one. Looking through some other scores here, Brownsburg rolled over Fort Wayne Dwenger 45-13. I believe that was 45-0 at one point, or it was a running clock basically by halftime. Brownsburg plays Cathedral next week at Marion, so that should be a game to watch as well. Carmel beats Homestead 34-10, so Carmel sets up, they'll be undefeated at 1-0 against Westfield next week. That should be a great game, great atmosphere. Cascade beat Indian Creek 21-18. That's a good win for Cascade early in the year. Fishers beat North Central 49-35, and again, was kind of curious on that game. I'm not sure if that was actually a close game throughout. I was looking at the numbers here. I'm not sure. Fishers, I think, was pretty much in command of that. Yeah, it was 42-7 at one point. So yeah, it looked like they were in 49-14. So they were a 35-point lead in that one. North Central probably got some stuff going late, but they ended up 49-35 in that one. So North Central, I saw last week, I think they're going to be better offensively this year than they were a year ago. Don't have some other finals I'm looking through here. Franklin Central beat Perry 45-14, so good early win for Franklin Central in that one. Greenfield Central rolled 50-8 over Beech Grove. Guerin Catholic 36-17 over McCutcheon. HSE wins over Fort Wayne Carroll. That's a good win for HSE. 45-21 up at Fort Wayne Carroll tonight. They went on the road to win. Avon got beat by Lafayette Jeff. I wondered about that game too. 41-28, Lafayette Jeff gets the win. Lapel, good win over Hamilton Heights, 29-20. Lebanon, wild one, beats Pendleton Heights 48-40. Lutheran rolls over Crystal House 41-14. Martinsville rolls over B&L 50-7. Noblesville, good win tonight over Mount Vernon 43-24. Park Tudor 44-27 over Greenwood Christian. Plainfield gets a close win over Terre Haute South 31-27. And Shortridge over Purdue Poly 26-18. I mentioned Seymour over Greenwood. Shelbyville beats Greensburg 36-14. Tri-West over Western 43-7. South Putt beat Speedway 28-20. That was a game I kind of I was curious about. South Putt highly ranked and very good team again this year. So yeah, so some of the main ones I touched on. Obviously the game I had, talked a lot about that one. Cathedral 24-6 over BD. Chittard beat Brebeuf 58-35 in a wild game, and Westfield beat Center Grove 34-28. So those are some of the big ones tonight. And LN over LC 33-26. So again, thanks for joining me here. Obviously, we'll have a lot more stuff. I'm going to get to finishing up here and writing, but thanks for joining me on here, and we'll talk to you again, I'm sure, very soon. Thank you.